Good morning, everyone. And today we are live for another episode of the Wired for Success podcast. As usual, you can see that I am here with my dear colleague Steve Costello, myself, Patience Modevi, and today we are talking about labels with our special guest, Leo Farberg. Leo Farberg is a clinical psychologist. He's going to join us today to talk and to give us like some advice, tips about labeling, but also, as we do normally, we all sharing experiences, and you'll be able to see that today's going to be a special episode.
We've got a crazy delay going on here. I hope you can hear me, guys.
We can.
So a few minutes ago, as we say to everybody every week, Patience and I have a little chat. Today we had a little chat with Leo too, so that was really cool. And we've got this internet delay thing going on, which is driving me nuts because I think everybody can hear me, but then again, maybe they can't. So I'm just going to talk. We'll see what happens. So I was just talking a couple of minutes ago about a few different things relating to labeling that kind of bring us along from last week. So one of the things that labeling definitely does is it influences the way children are treated. So if we say X child is a bad child, people are going to treat them as a bad child because they're always naughty and getting up to things that they shouldn't be getting up to, true or false. Who knows? But that's what labeling can do. It's a type of, in psychological terms, labeling is a type of cognitive distortion. In other words, let's put it in plain English, labeling isn't true. It generally isn't true. Occasionally, we might have a child who has behavior challenges, but labeling them as a bad child is going to make their behavior challenges perhaps worse. So there's a lot of distortion going on. So if we give our children or anybody's children labels, it can affect the way they see themselves. It can affect what they think is expected of them. You're expected to be bad. Okay, I'm going to be bad. I'll play the game. No problem. And it also affects how they're treated. Oh, that's a bad kid. Keep him at arm's length. Don't play with that kid. Any times as growing up, I remember it quite well. And all of that stuff influences who the children become. It plays a big part in who they become, unless those children are lucky enough to be able to find a way out of the label. So stigma associated with labeling can isolate children. It can see them rejected from their local society or from the wider society. They may start to blame themselves for stuff. They may feel guilty. They may suffer from emotional distress. There's all kinds of things that happen because of labeling. And the big one, and I'm going to be quiet after I say this, labeling is a massive generalization. Generalizations are not good for us, and labeling does generalize. So guys, who's up for this? Who would like to talk? Come on, Leo, tell us what you think.
I can proceed. Yes, labeling is a big part of life, and it really comes from cultural and all types of generalization, because probably like thousands and years ago, it was important for people to put kind of labels, because you have to know who's us and who's them, because them may be really dangerous. And though the society has developed and evolved, all those types of labeling and generalizations just started being kind of peculiar. We found we can find all types of labeling concerning gender or sexual orientation, race, culture, or nationality, religion, and personal traits. And we cannot say that there is anybody free from such stereotypes which come from another thing is that historically we've been lately we've been recording things or showing them on TV or showing them in the news, and the news are never positive because they know how to disturb our feelings, and they use all the bad stuff that black people there are that, police are that, transgender people are that. Right now I'm from Russia, and right now I'm labeled in so many ways, and I'm a transgender male. So right now I'm being discriminated for who I am and planning to leave the place because I don't have any uh, resources to fight it. I'm tired of fighting, but I want to be free of it. But you can see how it is all built up, saying that these people are mad, these people are doing it for like getting more attention. They're all sick. They have to be put in the facilities. So let's forbid it. They stick their hands to our children. So it's important to find someone that bad to distort and to take the public's attention away from what the political uh, upper well personalities are doing, because right now all over the world all Russians are bad because of the things that are going on in the Ukraine. So um, and it is really difficult to overcome these stereotypes. Uh, many scientific and sociological and psychological uh, investigations has been done, not the investigation, the other term, but okay, forgive me by forgetting some of the English terms. It's and they're
Nice.
all yeah, this scientific research, for example, it's an old example. It's like, I think it's more than 50 years old, when the teachers were told about randomly about the children that these are talented and these are lazy and these are whatever, and by the end, or maybe late bloomers as they called it, and throughout the semester uh, those children that were labeled positively really showed better results. There are also research showing that, for example, if girls or women are reminded of their gender before a math test, their uh, results are lower than an average. Uh, the same is told about Black people in the United States. I've heard about research showing that, uh, again, mentioning the race made the results on IQ tests lower than average. But at the same time, when President Obama was elected, general level of uh, the grades in schools raised throughout the African American community, the children. So we also can be talking about positive labeling, or
Yeah.
but
Yes,
most
you're
we,
right.
we, yeah, but mostly we deal with negative ones, and they become a burden. And if there is any advice I can say, it's because of this. It's probably natural. Again, it comes from uh, the the background of uh, being uh, aware that someone who's different from you may be dangerous. And I cannot say that it is not true, but it's in some cases, and it's true that many children have problems with learning or behavioral problems or whatever. But it's the main advice that I can, the number one, is that make it personal. I mean, first find out who the person is in front of you is, who's your child. I used to um, give lectures and lead the maternity classes for expecting mothers. And when I had a section on the future baby and how to deal with the baby and take care of the baby. Of course, I'm a psychologist. It's not the main thing to how to teach how to clean the baby or to dress the baby. There's some practical everyday things, but the main thing issue that appears is how I deal with the baby. And I said, but the best thing you can do is not to make up a person or make up a grown up out of a baby. First, try to find out who is this child, who is this person who came to be your child. It's not making a personality. It's uh, providing a space for the personality to emerge and
Mm,
show itself. And it doesn't mean that there are no kind of bad traits. We are all uh, on the spectrum of whatever is possible. We can be angry, we can be happy, we can be talented in one things, but absolutely dumb in other things. But just not just find out who this is and what they are able of at every age, because very often we expect some things from the children that they're not just uh, physiologically able of. Well, they cannot because they're small. Because our culture is, and there's another label that we have to kind of push them to show good results earlier than they are basically able to. So probably uh, what every parent should bear in mind, that we parents and adults, we are the bearers, the main bearers of those stereotypes.
yeah,
We have to clear our views on them. We have to see them, their peculiarities. And when you see that your child is struggling, for example, with behaviors or uh, educational difficulties, the main thing is not to pay too much attention on the problem, but know the problem and how to deal with it, how to avoid it, how to uh, turn around it. Because if someone uh, is well has difficulties in something like in maths or some disruptive behavior in class, it usually has a reason, and
yeah,
it usually has a way out. So by saying make it personal, I mean that education and upbringing and caring of children over and of each other as grown-ups as well has to become personalized. What this particular person needs are, uh, what possible ways of developing, or maybe just don't push the person to the way that is not possible, or maybe not uh, suitable.
yeah. I think you're right there, Leo. And there's so many things you've said just now that got me like thinking. So if I could just come back to a few things, like for example, I don't know if you heard of this book by Napoleon Hill.
Yes, I've read it.
I think everybody
Oh,
in the world of entrepreneurship or careerists have heard of it. And what happens is that I don't remember if it's himself or there's one character in the book who basically the mother receives a letter. When she receives the letter, in the letter it says that her child cannot come to school anymore because the child cannot read, cannot do anything, is really slow compared to everybody. He can't learn anything. But what she does is that she tells her child that her child is such a genius, his level of expertise is so high that he cannot be in that class. Therefore, she's gonna teach him at home. But then later on in life, when he's grown and he's made big business and is really successful, and people are coming to him for um, for advice and everything, he discovers the letter that was written when he was younger, and he starts to read the letter and he discovers that actually The letter never said that he was a genius. The letter never said that he was really brilliant at school. If anything, it was the whole contrary. But because the mother did not concentrate on the problem, as you was just saying, Leo, and she concentrated on, this is what I'm going to teach my child, this is how I'm going to help my child to develop himself, the focus left completely, and it never focused on the fact that I've got a problem. It focused on, where do I find solutions? Where do I do this? Where do I do that? And the development went on another level. Now, if we were to think of it like if she had said exactly what was in the letter, what would have happened to him? Would he have had the destiny he had? I'm not too sure about that. That was one thing. And then a second thing you mentioned, and I thought that was really pertinent, is that I think in ourselves we are born. So at the moment, I'm kind of like in the gene keys. Sorry, so I'm going to bring a little bit of this slice, neuroscience slides, spiritual into this. But basically, in the gene keys, Richard Rudd, he explains that. I think it's gene key number 8. There's basically this idea that we are born with this idea of conformism. So when somebody wants to come out of the conformism, it brings out this fear of the unknown, this fear of like, what is this going to bring to our conformism? And you can see how the society works. At school, we have to follow a certain academic schedule. If we don't follow it, then it means that something is wrong. Nothing is wrong. It's just that person is like an individual and they have their own way of learning or their own way of assimilating information. And I think it just describes exactly that. And also another thing is that I think for me, the genius lies in the uniqueness. The genius lies in being who you are. So if we can create an environment where our children, our young people are really embracing themselves fully, the, like you said, the good, the not so good, everything, and really putting it in a way that is works with their own life, I think we will come to a better understanding of ourselves, and also we will later on kind of decrease these mental health challenges that a lot of young people, and when I say young people, is people in their 20s, 6, 18, 20s. So when I used to work in a foyer here in London, you could see a lot of young people who have this distorted, if I can say, distorted reality of how they belong, and I think this, like if we start younger and we kind of allow that space, we can then have less of later on in life.
I agree, completely agree. And we really, if there was a dream of like big kind
Yeah.
of dream that the
Yes.
government should invest more into the beginning of life, into the expecting parents, young parents, support them. It is a very nice story with about this letter you mentioned,
Yeah.
but it's nice because it's somehow the mother had the resources to do that.
Yes.
And I usually think about just an average mom who's got all possible complaints on her child or her children, little support and no support, no money to hire good specialists to work. Because I know I also I come from a small town, so as a psychologist I had to do everything whatever is brought to my office, so I know how to work with children with special needs from the like neuro correctional, what we call it, standpoint, what exercises I can do, or what other specialists I should advise. And I know that how strained it is, how much strain it is there's put on the mother, dealing with all of the stuff, the health problem, again, studies and behavior, and what people tell you in the streets, like trying to shut an autistic child down, when and blaming it on the mother that her child behaves badly and so on. So it's the whole society that has to take care of it. But again, it never starts from the upper levels, because they see it in their own stereotype. That's what's going on in Russia right now, concerning war, concerning transgender people, whatever, all the LGBTQ community. They think they know, and they start pressing it down. That's how you should behave, and that's their own labeling. But real change started again from the personal level, and then with the communication with people with the same ideology in the good sense. Because, like, for example, if I can talk to a parent, if I can talk to another professional in this area, even at schools, basically, we have to, it's kind of revolutionary ideas, but we have to rearrange almost everything that we have in our society. About a year ago, one of my, like, figures that I look up at in the trauma field, trauma
Yeah.
correction field, Gabor Mate had a
I
beautiful.
I think
Mhm. Go on, Steve. We can mention the book later, if necessary. Go on.
I think one of the challenges, yeah, I think one of the challenges that we face is, we've got something going on at societal level, or use the example of Russia, something going on that seemingly is coming from government about LGBTQ. But if we turn it around and make it much more personal, I think this is one of the places we need to be really looking at very closely. So a good, for example, is when I was at school, high school, I'm talking about, so from the age of 11 to 16 plus, my parents would go to parents' meetings once or twice a year, whatever it was, and they always came home with the same message: could do better.
Yeah.
I hated that. I so hated that. Could do better, because I did my best. I wasn't particularly good at mathematics. Absolutely wasn't. I I'm not going to go into the reasoning for that. I know why I didn't seem particularly good at it. But yet, as a psychologist, I can do statistical calculations that would blow people's minds, and I can do them on paper. So I'm not poor at mathematics, because if I can do those, I can do anything else. Why was this kid rubbish at mathematics at school, but yet gets himself a psychology degree and can do the most crazy statistical calculations and felt as though I wasn't good at maths. And I felt that for a very long time. Now, had my parents come home from parents' meetings and said, what's happening in maths? Is there something we can do to help? What support do you need? How do you feel? Rather than saying, could do better. So, in other words, asking some really straightforward questions could have made a big difference sooner. Whereas I had to wait until my early 20s when I got myself together and worked it out of my system. But as I said before, once labeled, a lot of people can't work it out of their system. They begin to own it, they identify with it, it becomes part of them. Let's talk about some really simple science. So if I keep telling myself I'm rubbish at public speaking, I'm rubbish at public speaking, and I keep telling myself that, neurons are going to form up here in my head that will lead me to believe it's true. Period. That happens. We know that happens. I've given you the really simple science version. You don't need the complicated detail, but that's what happens. So if we ask different questions, if we ask sensitive questions, we're possibly going to make a difference. And then, if this is some utopia, if we get everybody asking the sensitive questions carefully, eventually they get to government. And we're all asking more sensitive questions. In an ideal world, that's what I would like. In today's world, that's not what I'm getting. But, you know.
And going back to the idea of spiritual stuff, as far as I know, and being a clinical psychologist, it doesn't mean I'm all neuroscience. It's I also I'm a lot into the uh, spiritual ideas and energy work, which is another labeling. Okay, you're a clinical psychologist, so you just deal with the brain. Oh no, you're a spiritual, so you deal with energy. No, it's just the two parts of the same. Energy has to cling on something and to make it move. So and I and again, another thing, you can choose. You don't just get what society tells you. You take a stereotype, you boil it in your head, you somehow play with it, and then you find your own attitude towards it. So it may be, so I chose to believe that we have souls. It's our energy, and souls are genderless, raceless, whatever. They may have colors, but it's also some probably just our low earth ways, how they manifest themselves. But and basically we're all one, so there is no need in hatred. Yes, this like person in front of you, this human in front of you, may be even dangerous. I can agree with that, but and sometimes you really have to take yourself out of this, just to run away quickly, or somehow that's what I'm doing, because I don't see any more opportunities for myself. I want to give more to people, and I cannot. So that's why I'm taking care of myself with some help from my friends. But and at the same time, just before, when you see a child, oh, hey, patience, where you go? So
I'm so sorry, Leo. Can I just come back to just what you said exactly now? I think it's really important that we pinpoint that. Is that so? We are talking about labeling and what happens with labeling and this and that, the effect. But what should we do when the labeling is overpowering and got a hold of our lives? And that's exactly what you quickly mentioned there. If we can just come back into it, like you said, you said, if we are, I can't do anything anymore, the opportunities are not there. And often for young people or even for parents, um, they don't see the opportunity, but they still stay in the same environment that is not good for them, that is not going to help them. And I'm not talking about environment in terms of like territory. I'm talking about environment. For example, it could be family that are toxic and they will still stay in the same toxic environment, or it could be friendship or even a career that is not good for you and yet you are still staying in. So if you could just give us a little bit of more on that. Sorry.
well, it's quite understandable, because doing something, moving somewhere, or not necessarily in the geographical thing
Yeah.
term, but just that's the neuroscience. The brain is scared, and when the brain is scared, it turns on the emergency brake, because the subconscious or lower parts of the brain, when they feel scared, people rarely fight. Really,
Yeah.
we can see that everybody's like fighting, but if we dig deeper,
Yes.
people people freeze. And as soon as and people don't know anything else but their toxic family, because these are the only people they can somehow rely on. Yeah, this is the society, this is the class, this is the only teacher they have in front of them, and they have no idea that maybe something different. And that's why social media might play a better role,
Mm,
instead of showing more labels. Like I had a client of 20 years old who dreamt of a villa in Florida, staying in the middle of Russia. I said, well, it's not your dream, obviously. Why not like Spain? Why not $5 million, not $2 million villa? It's obviously not your dream. It's taken somewhere from the social media space, and
mm,
these things that we are doing, they may have less effect in the general population, but at least there's some effect as soon as we speak that it's possible. As soon as we address two parents, okay, guys, let's see, because adults, on one hand, they are more stereotyped or overloaded with these stamps, as we may call it. But at the same time, we can find possible arguments for them. Okay, guys, let's look at it with from a different direction. We can do some add some science. We can say tell some stories. Stories usually work better than science, you know, and. A lot is to be done within educational system, not in every school. It's not necessarily the like
mm,
big programs, but what we have to know is that we all are filled with stereotypes. Everything we know, we hear is has been said sometime or another, or done or whatever. So what we can do, we can take every idea, every stamp, every prejudice, and work with it consciously, because that's Steve's uh, main uh, topic is mindfulness.
yeah.
Whatever you suppose at the first glance, your first reaction is probably 100% a stereotype. When you when I see a policeman on the street and I kind of freak out, it's not because I'm a criminal, just because for some reason I'm scared of them. You're right. And then I have to stop myself and think whether these real policeman in the street is after me, or is he a good person or something, and just walk by. And the same with the children. We have in Russia. We also have quite a history of pedagogics and educational psychology and stuff close in the country. So we have quite a name. After the civil war, there were many homeless children all around the country, and they were picking them up and putting them into special facilities. And most of them had some criminal records already, because they were stealing, they were begging, they were fighting, whatever. Because when you get children
Mm,
over the streets where they have to survive, you cannot expect, a little angel. But one principal of such a school, he said, "Don't show me his records. I want to know this child by myself. I want to get acquainted with this child, with this kid." They were mostly not small kids; they were teenagers. So I want to get acquainted with this person, and it's one of important issues. If you know that, and we all are very easily pick up other people's ideas or other information coming from other people, and it's not easy to say just don't show me the record, but you have to stop. Okay, this is what's written in the record, that is what this person says and this person said, but let me know the child. When I worked at school, I tried my best to work this way, though I was talking to everybody about every child, but at the same time I was trying to kind of broaden the view and know the child, who this person is, and why he has got some problems, whatever the problems they were showing. So I think it's important, stop and see a person inside of this skull.
I had a great example of that yesterday. yesterday from my niece. She has a 6-year-old son who's neurodivergent, and patience knows what I'm talking about in relation to this. He's completely non-verbal, and he goes to a special school where he can get the attention he needs. He came home from school yesterday, and this is really cool, with a certificate from the head teacher. And it said, award given to Declan Costello, the award of great communicator because he told us exactly what he wanted. And
Wow.
that is a huge, huge win. It's fantastic. There was no negative labeling. It was a very positive story. It was good for mum because
Yeah.
she worked so hard to help Declan with his communication. But he went out there in the big world and received positive support from somebody who didn't label him. She gave him a very positive push. And I think that's a beautiful story. And that is the sort of story we need a lot more of.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
some research a few days ago for something else. This is for a workshop that I'm involved with.
Mm.
And according to statistics, 90% of news stories are negative. 90%. That is ridiculous. How many of those news stories are stereotypes? How many offer negative labeling? Like Leo said earlier, all Russians are bad. We shouldn't even be talking to Leo right now.
Yes.
He's dangerous.
Absolutely.
so, so sometimes we've got to take a breath. Actually, no, I'm not going to participate in this. I'm going to think carefully about the way I act in the world, the way I am with my young people, and so on. Okay, that's it for me. I'm going
Yeah.
to stay
I
quiet
think
from
I
now. I
think
don't know that my connection is particularly great, so
that's fine, Steve. We understand, and I'm sure the audience also understands. Um, one thing you were saying is just reminding me of a story. So basically, I have a friend that we grew up together. We went to school together and everything. I've never seen my friend other than my friend. Yet my friend is gay. So when people who are in my, for example, in my environment, they get to meet him, that's the first thing they see, that he's gay. But for me, all I see is my friend. I don't have any thinking of whether he's gay or is heterosexual or is of another sexual orientation. All I see is my friend and the banter that we have together and how we've always been together and we talk together. But you see, it's exactly that. It's exactly the I could also go into the labeling of like, oh yes, he is like that. But no, for me he's not. And I think that this is also another way that we can normalize things. Everybody is going into things and saying, well, this person is just this person, period. This person is not this or that or that or another label. This person is just like this. And the thing is, it's really, really easy to get into the labeling and say, this person is that way. If I want to talk, I mean, I was telling Leo earlier, so a little bit about myself is that my husband comes from a Muslim background. Myself, I come from a Catholic background. Can you imagine the type of stereotypes, the type of comments that I've heard about, oh, when you are with Muslim people, this is happening. And these Muslim people, they do that. And you're going to lose your freedom. And you're going to wear the burqa. And you're going to basically all the things to scare you, it's like a scaremonger thing. Like you've got to stay scared and not go into this territory that is like dangerous for you. Yet it's been like more than 50, I think more than 15 years. Yeah. So basically 17 years that we've been together. And as you can see, I'm right here. I'm free to do things that I want to do and everything, and anything that I feel not free of doing, maybe, or I'm compromising, it's just because I'm in a relationship. It's got nothing to do with the religion, it's got nothing to do with the gender, it's got nothing to do with the sexual orientation or anything like that. It's just got to do with two individuals together and having to navigate life together. And I think we have to take life as this, as a relationship, as a back and forth. So, from a parent to a child, from child to parent, from professional working with children, and so on and so on. And going into that way, one thing, if we can go, because I know we've been talking, but if we can again go into the advice and guidance here, one thing that I found with labeling is that you could label yourself. Basically, if you are labeling others, you could also label yourself. So if you want to start on the labeling of yourself, how is it going to go? It's not going to go in a positive way, it's going to go in a negative way, and really, really quickly. Because now, instead of thinking, well, you know what, I'm going to label myself as a best bookseller or best this. No, you're going to go into, oh, I'm not good at this. Oh, I'm not really good with that. And once you've done this exercise once, you then realize that, oh, if I'm not happy having this done to myself, why would I do this to others? I think that's something that we need to teach also the young people to understand, so that they come out of this labeling thing, of this labeling idea of, earlier, Leo mentioned about the police. I have sometimes difficulties with that, because in England, there's a labeling that is quite frequent. So basically, young person with a hoodie on, dressed in kind of all black, uh, is definitely part of a gang and is gonna do something bad. But if I was to come back to my own household, I've got young people in my house who would like to dress in all black, who would like to put the hoodie on, and I'm not and are not part of a gang or anything like that. But I'm worried as a mother that you go outside in that way, the police will stop you. And this is really bad. And when I say it's really bad, is because I work with the police in my other job, and working with the police, I see sometimes how they stop people. And whether you want it or not, there is some profiling. There are some labels that they follow, and there is some profiling.
Probably the most difficult thing is
Yeah.
to
I think
get
there's some
labels.
really
What you
simple
said. Yes.
examples that we can
Go on, Steve. Go on.
have. I think awareness is something that we all need to develop.
Mm.
And here's a really simple example, a very simple example. So one of my eldest son, when he goes out, has what he calls his man bag, and it's just a little bag, like a little pouch, and inside of it is his ID, money, bits, keys, nothing in particular. But that bag in France is seen as a drug dealer's bag.
Yes.
All drug dealers carry them. So my son is a drug dealer. He's not. He doesn't use drugs, but he's seen that way. So we need to adapt our thinking. We need to change the way we look at things, as Wayne Dyer always said. and then things hopefully will change. Okay, I'm going to stay quiet because every time I speak, nobody hears me at first, and then I come in later, and it's getting difficult to understand.
That's okay. Don't
Okay,
worry.
No,
how are we
stay
doing,
quiet.
patience? What's happening?
I think Leo was gonna say something in relation
Hmm.
to what we just discussed.
Well, I wanted to say, and I started saying that the most difficult thing is working with your own labels, how you label yourself, because you've been labeled before you yourself could understand anything about labels, whether you're a good kid or bad kid or good at math, bad at math, whatever. Your friends are bad. You are doing something that you shouldn't be doing, whatever. So before you become uh, able to analyze what's going on, you are already labeled all over, and that's why. And again, you uh, the well, you will be labeled in some bad terms with some negative stereotypes uh, faster than you'll get good things said about you, because in many cultures we believe that you can uh, motivate someone by negative, uh, like by
Mm,
threatening or trying to explain the bad consequences. Uh, in many cultures, people believe that talking about bad things is something that will provide better future. But again, science shows that it's not. That uh, positive thinking is something to be taught because it's not natural for humans.
mm,
It has to be artificially brought into the culture of upbringing. And as a psychotherapist, probably that's the main uh, target to work with is self-labeling, is trying to promote whatever is happening like a side of you.
yeah.
It's about the outer world. It's about other people. Work through what you think about yourself, how you view yourself, how you understand who you are. And again, what parents fail to do, not their fault many times. Most of the times, it's just cultural issues. Again, labeling how we should bring up our children. So, and when you are grown up, the main thing is to become a better parent to yourself. And again, we have to learn how to parent.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. And I was gonna even say something. I feel like as we grow older, we might need to go into stripping, you know, those stereotypes that we've grown with, and kind of like create our own stereotype that will be more positive. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an exercise, like I picked up an inner energy healing course, is that imagine yourself in your bubble, which is usually uh, a symbol of a safe space, your personal space, your boundaries, and then try to see, or you may do it while I'm talking. Just imagine the bubble that you're in, and imagine all the stamps, all the pictures, all the stereotypes that are put from the outside by other people, from the inside by yourself, or whatever you thought of yourself or what we were doing. And just start clearing them. Maybe some of them may be washed easily, uh, or maybe some of them are that big and that stuck that you have to work on them. You can work with them like one at a time, especially the big ones, with someone helping you. Just tell me how big it is, what color it is, about what this stereotype is, and just take them away. You may
Mm,
transform them, you may take them away, and so that you see the world clear, and the world can see it clear. It's a very nice exercise. Steve and I met in this training, actually, where we picked this. Uh,
This is
with that.
this is this is amazing. It's a little bit. I'm not sure if it comes from there, but it's a little bit like NLP,
Mhm.
where there's like this kind of
Yeah,
like
yes,
big image. But at the same time, I was gonna say, I love this idea because if anything, you will consciously see all those stereotypes, but there are some subconscious stereotype that might not show in the beginning. But by starting to do this exercise that you just shared, Leo, you can start to uncover one by one things that you were not even thinking that you were holding in, that will
right.
just come and pop out. So I
Yeah,
think it's like opening the door to this, and really this kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna go and do some inner work, some deeper inner work, and try to find out a bit of like what's going on right here, you know. Yeah. Oh wow, it's been a really great really great podcast today, like recording, and I'm really happy you joined us, Leo. I just don't want to leave you now. I want you to come again to do some more with us.
oh, you're welcome.
Um,
Steve knows I'm always ready to share some things and to talk it, because you see it, this uh, talks ignite something in each other, because
yeah.
you bear some things, you know that, that's okay, you'll use it in your work, but when you start discussing and sharing it, somehow gets some other vibe, some other maybe size. Oh, it's leveling up, and probably it's the next step in everybody's development, is that not just develop yourself, but develop the connection, develop let common things grow.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Leo. Steve, you want to say a last words?
Was that for me or for? I don't know. Think about, Leo said a few minutes ago that we need to be good parents to ourselves, and that is entirely true.
Mhm, mhm,
A client that I'm currently working with, after 27 years, realized that she'd been following a path that was based on a label her father had given her 27 years ago.
mm,
The path, she's discovered today, was the wrong path. So for 27 years, she's been going off down the wrong road, and it's caused her all kinds of grief. It's caused problems with her communication skills. It's caused problems with her confidence, etc., a lot of etceteras. She wants to be that great parent to herself, but
mhm,
she's needed me as in the role of a therapist to uncover all the labels that were thrown at her 27 years ago that have stuck and stayed with her all of that time. Let's not do that to one another. Let's think carefully. It takes some thinking. It takes some stepping outside of our own experience to look in, or sit in the bubble and look at our bubble. See what's in our own bubble. Just have a look, because that, I think, can help all of us. Now, I think there's 3 or 4 people all talking at the internet connections having a great time today. so, so I'm going to
uh,
be quiet from now.
oh,
Thank you.
that's
It's been brilliant.
amazing. Thank you so much, Steve, for those last words. Thank you, Leo, again for joining us as a guest today. I think this I mean, we spoke about that last week. Basically, we have so much to say about labels that this is going to continue. This is like going to be a series. So we're going to be back next week to talk to you again about another side of labeling. I think, to be honest with you, if we could just do one podcast on labeling only, I'm sure it will go on forever. But we can't do that. But we're going to do a few episodes. And we hope that everything we've shared with you today has been useful for yourself. We hope you get some of those exercises and you start to implement them in your life with your children, with for yourself. And we will see you next week for another episode of the Wired for Success podcast. Thank you so much, everyone, and goodbye.